The perfect facade represents one of the most chilling aspects of certain serial killers: their ability to present themselves as charming, intelligent, and trustworthy individuals while concealing their true predatory nature. This psychological mask allows them to operate undetected for years, sometimes decades, by exploiting society's tendency to associate evil with obvious warning signs or social outcasts. The concept is significant because it challenges our fundamental assumptions about how dangerous individuals should appear and behave, revealing how our cognitive biases can make us vulnerable to manipulation. Ted Bundy exemplifies this phenomenon perfectly. Described as handsome, articulate, and educated, Bundy worked at a suicide hotline and was pursuing a law degree. His clean-cut appearance and ability to feign vulnerability, often using a fake cast to appear helpless, allowed him to lure numerous victims. Similarly, Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, maintained a 30-year killing spree while serving as a church council president, Boy Scout leader, and compliance officer. His neighbors viewed him as a devoted family man and pillar of the community, making his eventual capture all the more shocking. Experts in criminal psychology support the idea that psychopaths often possess superior manipulation skills, with Dr. Robert Hare noting that their superficial charm and apparent normalcy serve as perfect camouflage. This emotional mimicry allows them to understand and exploit human vulnerabilities without experiencing genuine empathy themselves. However, this concept raises controversial questions about profiling and prejudice. Some argue that focusing on the charming killer stereotype can lead to overlooking genuinely dangerous individuals who don't fit this mold, while potentially casting suspicion on charismatic but innocent people. There's also debate about whether these individuals are born with these traits or develop them through environmental factors. The perfect facade concept connects directly to how these killers evade capture for extended periods, often accumulating numerous victims before being caught through circumstantial evidence, rather than suspicion from those who knew them. It also explains why their eventual exposure often shocks entire communities, creating lasting trauma and trust issues. This deception ultimately makes their crimes more devastating, as victims and communities feel doubly violated, first by the murders themselves, and second by the realization that someone they trusted was capable of such horrific acts, fundamentally altering how they perceive human nature and their own judgment. I'd be happy to help you develop content for your outline about the serial killer who fooled everyone until this happened. However, I noticed that you haven't included the specific heading you'd like me to analyze and expand upon. Could you please provide the particular heading from your outline that you want me to focus on? For example, it might be something like the perfect public persona, warning signs that were ignored, the moment their facade cracked, how they manipulated law enforcement, the evidence that finally exposed them. Once you share the specific heading, I'll provide a detailed 350 to 400 word explanation that covers all the elements you've requested: the definition, significance, examples, expert opinions, challenges or controversies, and connections to the broader topic. This will give you solid material for your script that's both informative and engaging for your audience. The early life and psychological foundation of deception refers to the formative experiences, environmental factors, and inherent psychological traits that enable certain individuals to develop extraordinary abilities to manipulate, lie, and present false personas with remarkable convincingness. This concept is crucial to understanding serial killers because their success often hinges not on their ability to kill, but on their capacity to blend seamlessly into society while concealing their true nature. This foundation typically emerges from a complex interplay of childhood trauma, neurological differences, and learned behaviors that create individuals who view deception as both a survival mechanism and a tool for control. What makes these cases particularly chilling is how these psychological frameworks allow killers to maintain dual lives for years or even decades, fooling family members, friends, colleagues, and even law enforcement professionals who are trained to detect deception. Consider Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, who maintained the facade of a devoted family man, church leader, and compliance officer, while secretly torturing and killing victims for over 30 years. His early experiences of feeling powerless led him to develop an elaborate system of compartmentalization, allowing him to genuinely express care for his family while simultaneously planning murders. Similarly, Ted Bundy's childhood instability and feelings of inadequacy contributed to his development of a charming, educated persona that he weaponized to lure victims and convince society of his innocence even during his trials. Forensic psychologists argue that this deceptive foundation often stems from early emotional detachment and the development of what researchers call successful psychopathy, the ability to mimic emotional responses and social connections without genuinely experiencing them. However, some experts challenge the notion that childhood trauma inevitably creates killers, pointing to countless individuals who experience similar circumstances without becoming violent. The controversy lies in determining whether these deceptive abilities represent calculated learned behaviors or indicate fundamental neurological differences that make empathy and genuine human connection impossible. This debate has significant implications for criminal justice, as it affects how we assess rehabilitation potential and predict future behavior. Understanding this psychological foundation becomes essential when examining how these killers eventually get caught, because their downfall often occurs when their carefully constructed facades begin to crack under pressure, when they become overconfident in their deceptive abilities, or when their psychological needs override their survival instincts. The very mechanisms that protected them for so long ultimately become the keys to their detection and capture. I'd be happy to help you create detailed content for your outline, but I noticed that you mentioned the following heading without actually including the specific heading you'd like me to analyze. To provide you with the most accurate and relevant 350 to 400 word explanation that covers the definition, significance, examples, expert opinions, challenges, and connections you're looking for, I'll need to know which particular heading from your outline on the serial killer who fooled everyone, until this happened, you'd like me to focus on. Could you please share the specific heading you'd like me to elaborate on? Once you provide that, I'll be able to craft a comprehensive, script-ready explanation that addresses all the elements you've requested.